Things are really heating up in this world. And as they do, there is something that most believers around this world, they really struggle with. If you are like me, you have been building yourself up stronger each day, preparing your faith for this world and these events that are ahead of us. None of us knows our Father's exact timing. All we know is that we must continue to wait and trust on Him. Many of you are dealing with pressure because as you are waking up, you are dealing with pressure from family and friends that are just not with you, and many are showing that they are against you. I covered this topic a couple of years ago, but with everything going on right now and with everything that's being revealed, I think it's important that I reintroduce some of these things and try to help those who are dealing with the pressures of being rejected by family and friends and feeling isolated. Over the past decade, there has been a consistent word that is always on my heart. A word that always was on my mind when I was speaking with those that I cared for and that I loved. That word is urgency. I have always felt a sense of urgency in preparing my faith, preparing my family, preparing my friends, and whoever else our Father placed in my path that He spoke to me on. Urgency is a word that I have always had in my spirit. Urgency to prepare our Messiah's assembly. Urgency to prepare Yasharel. And what often comes with that feeling is often a feeling of discouragement from the world, because things that just made sense to me and seemed like common sense were not the same for pretty much everyone else that I came in contact with. I found that a majority of the people I knew and loved could care less about the things that pertain to our Father. It wasn't really shocking or disappointing at first when I spoke to my friends who were obviously in the world like I was at one time. I knew with them there was going to be a lot of work that needed to be done. But in the beginning, what really hurt me was when I spoke with close family members that were already what they would call Christians and or strong believers. People that introduced me to Yahusha long ago when I was just a child. When I started taking my faith really serious and reading the Bible with the purpose of understanding and growing my relationship with the Most High, I just knew that they were going to be happy for me and that I was going to be able to find guidance and help from them with all the things that Father was conveying to me, because He was giving me a whole bunch. But I quickly found that there are many that love Messiah with their mouths, but their hearts were far from Him. I found that this journey of faith that I was being led into was going to be a journey that was done primarily on my own. Like even with my wife in the beginning, as Father was showing me how evil this world was, I wasn't able to really speak with her about most things either. I really had no one for a long period of time. Every time I brought up my views, I was met with hostility and ridicule. And early on in my walk, it provoked me to anger quite easily. I wish I could say it took me less time, but it took me a couple years just to realize that all the provocation to anger I was feeling was all just an attack from Satan to get me to move from my flesh and reduce any power in the spirit that I was trying to use. Now, after I did realize this, I was far from perfect, but I tried harder to act more through the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh and less by my flesh. And that really got the devil mad, and so he sent my family and friends at me to try to break me. But long story short, I never left that feeling of urgency, and I spent a great deal of time learning on many different subjects on my own, trying to understand the world that was hidden from me. Again, that urgency, it never left. I got to a point in my life that I was strong and confident in my faith and relationship with our Father in heaven, and I understood the world that I was living in. But my peace wasn't always there because I felt sadness for my family and my friends that I knew that were not there. Like I knew where their decisions were going to lead them. It's something that was a struggle for me for many years. I'd be lying to you if I told you that I'm completely able to deal with it and that it does not bother me that even after all these many years, many of these people are still not where they need to be. But what I can tell you is that the peace that these feelings once took from me is no longer able to be taken. And so I am sure that many of you that watch these videos have gone through and are actually going through similar circumstances and feelings. And so this week, as all these things are going on, I would like to just give you some words of encouragement that I feel that might have helped me as I was going through it as well. I hope this video encourages and lifts you up, because no matter what, nothing should steal your peace that our Father provides. And regardless of those that do not listen, we still have work to do. So we must continue on until our Father calls us to gather us. You must know that not everyone is coming with you. You have to adjust your mindset and expectations and understand this. Not everyone is coming with you. Let's begin. Okay, so if you're like me, You have family and friends that you care about that right now do not see the world from the vantage point that you see things from. They are looking at the world quite differently than how you do. I think a good metaphor of this is always found in the movie The Matrix. I'm talking about that point when Morpheus showed Neo what the real world looked like. We see the world really like this, but the people we speak to, they see the world like this. It's completely different. And for us, we keep trying to understand what it is that we need to say or do to get them to understand that the world that they are loving and placing their hopes in is not really what's real. It's not real. They have built their trust and hopes in lies. Lies that are intentionally in place to distract them and keep them away from our Creator and drag them to hell. Now, in this world, there are really two types of people that you're going to be dealing with: believers and unbelievers. Now, this can be hard to really rationalize because, like in my case, I don't have any atheist friends, or at least none that actually declare it out of their mouths. I don't really have close friends and family that deny the existence in Yahushua the Messiah. But with all that said, the way that they live their lives and the fact that they speak about him very rarely, I would not place them in the believers column, though I'm sure many of them would disagree. But then there are those who call themselves believers. There are a lot of family and friends that have gone to church their whole lives and call themselves big Christians. Their belief and their faith are tied into Christianity more than biblical principles. They constantly bring up their faith, and they obviously believe in the existence of Messiah. But they don't realize that they have made the church an idol, and the church was then made to be an intermediary between their relationship with the Most High. They can only know Yahuwah by going to church and what their pastors have told them. I remember a while back I had a friend that says he goes to church to hear from God. When I told him that he could hear from God anywhere if he was indwelled with the Ruach HaKodesh, he looked at me as if I was trying to tear down his church, and I was against Yah, which was the furthest thing away from the truth. Anyways, it's these Christians that have found give the most struggle for us, because our expectations are higher for them than others that I spoke about earlier. And also, for most of us, these people are often very close to us. They are our spouses, parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, etc. People we have known our whole lives, and many of them have declared their faith in Messiah much longer than we have. And some of them are older than us and may feel that there is nothing that we can teach them. I often get messages asking how to deal with this. You are preparing your faith, growing stronger in Messiah yourself, seeing many evil deceptions that the devil has been taking advantage of us with. And you want to kill all that influence and noise from not only your life, but in those that you love. But these people aren't listening. What should you do? For me, I always thought it was about being consistent in my messaging and walking by example. And do not get me wrong, doing those things are extremely important, but that is not the most important thing. The only answer that you have in dealing with this is through prayer. It sounds like such a simple, easy answer, and one that is very obvious, but it isn't as simple and easy as it seems. Because the mistake many of us make is praying one day and forgetting the next, or not being patient and waiting for our Father to answer our prayers, or not really relying on His will to be done, or being so hurt by some of them that your flesh won't even let you pray for them. There are many mistakes that we make. But let me tell you, prayer changes things. Always remember to do this. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim. And the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Messiah, Yahushua. That's Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. And also, pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 17. Pray with the understanding of 1 John chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. Now this is the confidence that we have in Him, that if we ask anything according to His will, He hears us. And if we know that He hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of Him. Again, that's 1 John chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. We must pray for our family and friends. This has got to be your number one plan and mindset with dealing with them. You must know you do not know what you're dealing with. You see, we tend to like to see things through our flesh. But the truth is that when we see rejection of the word, when we see pride and we see hostility, when we see people acting completely through their flesh, we must recognize that we are not just battling it against a person, but through spirits and demons that are acting out through that person. You're not going to get through to the person through logic when you have spirits blocking you from even reaching them. I mean, how many times have you made a good point, but they come back at you with the point you didn't even make that has nothing to do with what you're saying? You see, that's a spirit or a demon trying to block and distract. Remember, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. When we are praying, we are working in the spirit realm against these deceptive spirits. We don't see what's actually happening in the physical world, but we are warring in the spirit realm. And if you're not praying for them, there is no way for you to win the spiritual battle. So if you're trying to reach your family and your friends, you must pray for them. Pray without ceasing. I tell you, prayer does work. Now, the next part is understanding what the end times will be like and the way people in this world will be. You have to reset and align your expectations biblically. When you do this, it is important that you do not exclude your family and friends from this main understanding, but make sure you realize that Father was talking about them too. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7 says, "But know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away. For of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth." Again, that's 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. Now, for your friends that are unbelievers, those that I spoke about earlier, you will find many in these verses. Definitely having a form of godliness, but denying its power, or those that are always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. It's important that you understand this about those that refer to themselves as believers. There are many that fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah that Yahusha himself confirmed in Matthew chapter 15, verses 8 and 9. He says, "These people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." Matthew 15, verses 8 and 9. What we are doing is diagnosing the problem. When you understand these things, this can help you with the next part of the problem, which is not letting them steal your peace. Sometimes, the hardest thing to deal with is not the diagnosis, but dealing with the thought that you don't actually know why certain things are the way that they are. When you understand these scriptures and then apply them in your reality, you can better come to terms with why things are the way that they are. Applying 2 Timothy chapter 3, you understand why many of your friends and family are the way that they are. They are a product of the end times. When applying Matthew chapter 15, verse 8 and 9 to your believing family members, these Christians, you understand that they actually may just be loving Yahuwah with their lips, but they haven't worked on that real relationship, pleasing him according to his word. Therefore, their hearts, they're just far from him. Now, again, this doesn't change anything, but at least you understand why. And if you understand why, now maybe you can see them as just a confirmation of just how true and powerful his word is. But at the end of the day, you still want to help them. So what should you do? If you apply the first piece of advice and prayed, the next step is to just wait for him to work. You need to do your job, and that's be obedient to him. Let Yah guide your steps. You don't know how he will work. You just need to give him the opportunity to do so. You can't control anything other than yourself. So be mindful of how you're working for him and how you're presenting him to others. If you're presenting our Father and his ways in a way that will not be receptive for others, you need to be mindful of that as well. Now, you may hear that it's you often, and this can be true, or often it can just be an excuse. But if you just keep doing Father's will as your priority, you allow him to use you, it may happen in a way more than you ever imagined. In my own testimony, there was never a plan for this ministry. I tell this story often. This ministry came from the feeling of urgency I had for my family and my friends, but they never listened to me when I spoke. I could be quite aggressive, so I felt Father telling me to write a book and put a lot of my thoughts in there. No one read it, but I said, people don't read. I felt Father led me to chop the book up and place different articles on a website. Of course, no one read the articles on the site. I felt Father tell me to put my feelings on videos, and he'll show me how to do them. I did so. Of course, they never watched the videos. And so I felt extremely discouraged. But years later, while not paying attention to the channel, I saw that Father was drawing people to my early videos. And I realized, wait, maybe the plan wasn't only about my family and friends, but maybe all things that he gave me were for me to communicate it to whoever else he sends. And here we are today. An assignment that brings me much joy that I had no clue was ever our Father's plan as I was moving. And now when I look back at my whole life, I can see that he was preparing me for this time and this moment today. What am I trying to tell you? Simply relax and let our Father work. Pray and give it to our Father, and worry more about your walk and the assignment that he has for you. Worrying about your family and your friends will not do anything except steal your peace and your joy. Worrying about what will happen to your children and loved ones during the Great Tribulation will not help you. Worrying about anything will not help you. If you struggle with these feelings, give it to our Father, and if you have a problem trusting him and resting in him and relying on his will be done, then you honestly have a bigger problem on your hand than just your family not being ready. It is not easy dealing with family and friends that are not ready for him. Trust me, I know. But you cannot force anyone to believe. What you can control is yourself and how you listen and obey and how you walk in your relationship with him. Yes, maybe you're saying many sound things that make complete sense, but they're just not listening. I used to think that there was a special thing I needed to bring to each person's attention to get them to take their faith seriously and commit. But the problem is that I was giving myself more credit than I deserved. Yes, we must be fishers of men, but if they refuse to come, you cannot force it. Our Father does not want this kind of worship anyway. Just continue to be consistent and be an example of Yah's word. Let them see the truth through you, not by force, but by the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh. And if it is our Father's will that the veils be lifted from their eyes, make sure you are there in the right sound mind to assist them when they finally are able to see. My point is, it's not about you, so don't make it so. And listen, here's the hardest part that many of you need to come to terms with. And this is important that you hear it now as we're moving on, especially during these times. You need to come to terms with the fact that not everyone is going to get it. Not everyone is coming with you into Yah's kingdom. It's very sad, yes, and it's not something that we would want, no. But many people are plagued by idolatry and spiritual wickedness that do not allow them to come to the truth. To some people, it's all about their pride, which is a spirit, of course. They won't even allow themselves to see that they have been deceived for such a long period of time. It's truly sad. Many people don't truly love Yah, or they don't fully trust him, or they struggle with faith. There are many different things that are keeping people away from coming into Yah's kingdom. Not everyone you know is coming with you. That may be your spouse, your older children, your parents, your friends. It's important that you deal with that reality now, because as things heat up in this world, your faith and discernment is going to be leading you in directions that everyone will not follow. If your faith and you coming into the promises Yah has for us is dependent upon others coming in as well, you will not make it into Yah's kingdom. Everyone is not coming with you, and it is important that you have placed that expectation in your hearts now, so when that time comes, you are not caught off guard by it and end up sharing in the judgment that is not for you, because you were led by idols. Remember Lot and his daughters. Scripture said, "The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. Then Yahuwah rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, from Yahuwah out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt." That's Genesis chapter 19, verses 23 through 26. In Genesis, it's not said why Lot's wife turned back, but in Jasher, it does explain it. She turned back because she was fearing for her daughters, who she left, and so she turned back as she heard the screaming. But whatever her reasoning was, she was not worthy of the escape, and she was placed in the same judgment as Sodom and Gomorrah was, even though she had fled. You see, her heart wasn't fully with Yah to follow him where he was leading them. You must make sure that you have understood this lesson and apply it to yourself. Not everyone is going with you. And the unfortunate thing is that many people who live in disobedience are going to have hard times upon them. If you have not fully come to terms with this in your own heart and your own mind, you can walk out of the blessing and promises that are intended for you. Just because other people are walking in rebellion doesn't mean that you need to attach to them and let them steal your blessings. You cannot let this happen to you. You must be like Lot. You see, though they were living in Sodom and Gomorrah, they did not attach their hearts to wickedness. So as they were escaping, they were able to leave and not look back. I mean, that is just a pure metaphor of how our mindset should be. Be ready to leave and not look back. You may have attachments to this world, whether they are material possessions like money and property, or they are family and friends that are not saved, or they're just lukewarm. And because of these things, you are more attached to the world than you are attached to the kingdom of Elohim. And because of these things, you can't leave without turning back. This is a problem, and he illustrated it in his word so that we can see and identify with it. Because Lot's wife was this way, look what happened to her. She already knew that judgment was coming. That's why she was escaping. She should have been moving towards the Most High's blessing for her. She should have been so thankful that she was being spared and wanted to run into his precious arms. I mean, imagine getting a word from angels that the land you're in is about to be destroyed, but you receive a way of escaping it. Many of you deal with it. Spouses that just don't share your faith and will not follow you into the grace Yah has for you. Imagine Lot. I mean, he was ready to follow Yah and his guidance. But his wife, even though she left with him, her heart was not fully on board with the obedience of the angel's commands not to look back. She should have kept her heart pure and focused on who saved her and let the land go. But her love of the world and her idolatry kept her fully out of Yah's will. This example of scripture says so much in just a few verses. We see that everyone is responsible for their own decisions. You can't just ride the curtails of another believer and make it in. You also need to know he absolutely judges our heart and does not want to take those who are not fully for him with him. That's why submission to him and his will are so crucial. And you must understand that everyone making these decisions right now, going into rebellion and purely rejecting you, is because they're making a spiritual decision, and oftentimes there's nothing you can do about it. They're making a spiritual decision without them even recognizing it. In this example with Lot, it shows that we will know people that cannot come with us. For instance, with Lot, he had other daughters and they had husbands, and their husbands looked at the situation as a joke. They did not take Lot seriously. Imagine their feeling when they saw that they didn't take heed of the warning and they could have escaped. There will be those that we know that also will share this same fate as well, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do personally for them. You cannot force someone to believe and submit to Yah. Don't let them keep you from entering in the covering and blessings that our Father has for you. Nobody is worth this. My point is that everyone is not coming with you. And this is something that you need to come to terms with now, especially right now. Lot probably did not know that his wife did not make it with them until they were long gone, because he was following the command not to look back. If his obedience was tied to whether everyone else with him was obedient, he would have never made it out. You must make it your business to be faithful and obedient to Yah, even though you may have many around you that choose not to. If your family is not fully on board with you or is not following you, that does not mean that you must change who you are and how you follow Yah. You must continue to be a good, faithful steward and follow Yah in obedience wherever he leads. And your life right now is about getting those you love on board with you, because there is a time coming of separation, and you must be ready for it. Not everyone you know is coming with you. You need to come to terms with that. And if that's something you cannot deal with at this point, you need to either go harder in making your family and friends understand your faith, or understand you're taking a huge risk to share their fate. Not everyone you know is coming with you. It's also important to recognize that not everyone that you're talking to are meant to be in your life at this time. So be mindful of your allegiances to certain people. They may not have the same love for you that you have for them. Many people I know, they were sent in my life for distractions. Many people just work for the enemy, trying to get me off track. I no longer give these people access to me. And I really wanted that to be communicated, because I know that many of us are dealing with many that do not believe. It's important how you align your expectations of these times to come. I know this is a hard thing to hear, but it has to be said to you. You cannot force people into Yah's kingdom. You cannot force people to care about Yah more than they care about themselves. It's important that you understand this. But with all that being said, we're not just going to give up on our family and our friends. So here are some things you can do to help bring your family and friends closer to Messiah. You must realize that our Father draws people through the Holy Spirit. When the word of Yah is preached, the Holy Spirit brings conviction upon people through the word. Now listen, let me say this. I do recognize that of all the situations to deal with, the hardest ones to deal with are from those in your own home. So if you have an unbelieving spouse and children in your home and it's bothering you, there are things you can do to try to fix this. You might need to change your tactics. The problem in many of your homes is that Yahuwah is not present enough in your home, and you need to make adjustments to this. Just because you're able to see things clearly for yourself does not mean that they are supposed to see things at the same time in the same way as you. You must remember that you were once deceived too, just like them. And so you need patience for them, and you need to provide the atmosphere that allows for growth. My wife did not start at the same page as me, and she fought me continuously. As a husband, I will tell you men, you must be a true man of Yah and lead your home. And women, if your husband is not listening to you, you must be a true woman of Yah and submit to your husband and show him Yah through you. This is how you will win them over. It doesn't happen overnight, and it does require patience. But if you are able to show what Yahuwah is doing through you, they will want to understand why there's so much peace coming from you, and they'll want that same peace. But you got to provide it. But you must make Yah the center of your home and your family. I suggest start a Bible study in your home with your family. This is a great time to do so because these church organizations, they're failing, and many know it. Use the time that you have in your home to fill in gaps that this false church system has left wide open. You don't need to direct a certain message to them. You don't need to attack them to make them to believe something specific. You just need to make them learn about Yah and let them know how they submit to Yah. Just try to study Yah's word together, and this activity will allow the Holy Spirit room to work. If they don't want to do a Bible study, maybe send them one of the videos on this channel or other videos that have helped you, and try to have a discussion around it. Just sending someone a video link, it will not do. Sometimes you need to explain why you sent it and follow up later with discussion. For me, if I'm able, I just don't like sending people videos, but if I have the time, I like watching it with them and discussing right after or pausing during if questions arise. You do not need to be physically with them. Zoom and even Apple, I know, that lets you facilitate calls like this for free and allows you to share your screen with them. This is a good practice. You should try it with family and friends that are not close to you. And listen, I know that we're in the time where all this pagan holiday stuff is coming up. Depending on who you're talking to, you don't need to lead with the celebration of pagan holidays unless they're asking to understand that for themselves. Don't assume that this is what people need to hear first, just because you know it's very wrong. Sometimes we miss the underlying problem about why people celebrate this holiday. Many people that don't listen to what you have to say in regards to not celebrating pagan holidays is because they don't even fully know what a pagan even is, and they don't understand Yah's command to be set apart and to be holy. If you focus on what Yah's standards are, it can help later when exposing falsehoods. You need to find out what their biggest point of struggle with what you believe is. Here's the thing. You are the believer walking in the power of Yah. It is your responsibility to actually be the example of this. You must live in your convictions and stand strong in them. And if they walk away, then let them do so. But you cannot be the one who turns away. These other ones on the outside you might be able to walk away from, but you cannot do this with your spouse. You must give them time to learn and be patient with them. And you must also understand that what you want is for them to be ready for when the time comes to be gathered. So maybe they don't get it now, but when this world starts collapsing and things start changing, your strength and understanding during those times might be the help that they need to begin to understand. Maybe things start clicking as this world keeps going bad. Just know that if they're not listening and when the time comes, they clearly are following the enemy, know there's a point that you're just not going to follow them, and there is a point where you may need to separate. Make that be a red line for you. But right now, you need to be the example of Yah for your family and show them what living in his peace and righteousness looks like. And by that example alone, if they're paying attention and they see the difference in you, they will want to know more. My point is that you have more control over the situation with your spouses than you may want to admit. You have to let Yah direct these relationships and put him first. Take things in prayer. Have peaceful discussions. Set boundaries. Have no tolerance. Read the Bible together. It doesn't always have to be at the same time, but in the same place, and discuss what you read during the week. Don't make it that you're trying to teach them either, but that you just want to grow together. Make it something that you're growing together, understanding Yah together. Tell them you understand that they don't agree, but you want to start putting Yah first in the home. Most of them will not disagree with that. You need to fight through the spirit and not through the flesh. Their rejection is more a test about your faith than you may actually recognize. Now, listen, if you have children and they are not listening, it's because they're spoiled and too attached to American idolatry. I don't care where they are in this world. Take things away from them and force them to understand. These are your children. We don't play those games. When we are disobedient to Yah, what does he do to us? He takes things away from us, whether we know it or not. Raise your children the same way. They are blessed for obedience, punished for disobedience. Don't spoil these kids. Raise these children under Yah. And listen, if you made mistakes with them early, just own it and deal with it and correct these mistakes now. Prepare them for the kingdom. Also, if you're younger than those you're trying to reach and it doesn't seem that they're taking you seriously, in your prayers, pray that Yahuwah will send someone across their path that will assist them, and pray for strength in dealing with the rejections and having the patience and watching while you're waiting for this. Now, believe me, I understand urgency, but here's the thing, do not nag. And don't believe just because your heart is in the right place that bringing things up at any time is just justified. If this is about Father and not your ego, let him guide you on how to minister to your family and your friends. But do not nag, because this will only push them away from you. And sometimes you'll be the only voice there for them. Don't sound as if you're judging them. Remember where you were at one time too. We have a tendency to only see ourselves today and not who we were yesterday. I'd be a hypocrite to judge someone who was lost when I was just the same way at a point in time. Now, the believers that say that they love Yah but don't believe and rely on his word, they're just a different story. I won't tell them this obviously because they wouldn't receive it, but I do not look at them as believers. Because if they were believers, they would rely on the word more than the traditions of men. Now listen, this is important. Make sure you are strong in your faith before you go out witnessing. Do not go out and start preaching and you still have doubts and you're still caught up with pride. Or you have areas in your life that you need to correct and clean up, especially when it comes with your spouse. They'll know. Hypocrisy will always defeat you. If you come across questions that you don't know the answer to, be willing to say you don't know rather than just lie or make things that sound good just so you can impress. This is about helping them, not helping your ego. Again, always be consistent and an example of what you're preaching. Always remember, even though they aren't saying anything, they're always watching you. They're always looking for you to slip up, and they are looking for excuses not to listen to you. As you interact with them, always be mindful of this. These are some important points that I hope helps you. Listen, I understand how challenging these times are. Witnessing evil overtaking this world in the way that's happening right now is really devastating. But the good news is that your eyes are open to it. You have chosen our Father over this wicked world, and it's wonderful. Think about it. You could have been doing anything else today rather than watching this video. Father sees you, and you will be rewarded for your obedience. Just please continue and stay the course. Don't let anything steal your joy and peace from you. Our Father provides that, and you will need to know how to rest in his peace as this world continues to move forward towards darkness. Pray for your family and your friends, and continue to be the example that they need. You have been called out to be set apart, holy, leading the world to righteousness while wickedness continues to grow. You are not alone in this fight. There are believers all over the world that are also engaged in the same fight, that feel the same way that you do, that are going through the same things that you're going through. Read through these comments. We're all here. You are not alone. So don't feel like you're the only one fighting, so there's no point, because that's the devil speaking. Fight for your family and your friends. Fight for the souls of this world. Fight back against the wiles of the enemy. Keep fighting the good fight of faith. I promise you, you are winning. Keep warring in the spirit and continue to endure to the end. And be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share this video with others. I pray this strengthens believers who are struggling with this. Please take this advice seriously. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Yah willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I really would like to thank all those who support this ministry. You know who you are. The blessings, support, and messages you provide are a real blessing to this ministry. Please know I am very thankful for you. You really have no idea how you have helped this ministry. Thank you for being a blessing and being obedient to Yah's call on your heart. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching, everyone. I love you all.